Hi, have you been to one of my CE classes, especially on credit? You know how passionate I am about educating people with credit. So this clip is going to be the segment on really how to control your credit, the credit pie chart for those of you who've been to my class. Anyways, I wanted to go over this because I think this is really imperative. I wish this was mainstream out in the public, in schools, and in front of mass numbers of people, but unfortunately it's not. So I don't know why, but it's not. Anyways, let's go over this. Average credit score. The average credit score, believe it or not, this is shocking to me, is 715 according to Experian, but only 705 according to Equifax. This is up from years before where the average credit score is about 698. So as a lender, I'm shocked that this average score is this high, but I do deal with a lot of credit issues. So anyways, excellent credit is 780 or higher. Good range is 670 to 739. Poor credit is going to be 580 or lower. So we want to be aware of where you are. The spectrum does start at 300 at the lowest and 850 at the highest of your credit score. Our younger generations have an average score that's good to very good from 670 to 739. And of course, our older generation have an average credit score very good and excellent range in the 740 and the 799 range. So in the mortgage world, we are in the FICO world right now. FICO is the Fair Isaac developed unique software, which is an algorithm. And this is a scoring model based on 5 different categories that I'm going to review here very shortly. But the FICO matrix takes into consideration 5 different categories, and the lowest score at 300, the highest score at 850. And hopefully creditors and lenders like us can kind of predict what type of credit is going to continue on. Here's my famous credit pie chart. I love this chart. This is your overall credit profile. 35%, that's the biggest piece of pie. 35% of your credit is based on payment history. What does this mean? This means if you pay on time, you're going to have better credit score. This is what impacts your score the most. When I talk about 300 being the lowest and 850 being the highest, that gap is 550 points. So when I take 550 points and multiply it by this 35%, we're talking about 192 and a half points. This is how your credit score can drop immediately. So if you have a 30-day late payment, it can drop not only immediately over 100 points, but one 30-day late payment actually takes 9 to 12 months to recover. And think about this. One late payment, you have to bury it with on-time payments. And it's going to take about 9 to 12 months on-time payments to bury that and recover from that one 30-day late payment. Now imagine if you had 2 30-day late payments, a 60-day late payment, a collection, bankruptcies. We're talking about all this credit trauma that can happen. Those are going to take years to recover from. So we don't take this very lightly. Even one 30-day late payment can drastically decrease and drop your credit score. So be careful and make sure you're on time. The next section is my favorite part. My favorite section is 30% of your credit profile is based on amount owed. Amount owed on what? This section is focused on revolving credit only. What is revolving credit? Revolving credit is credit cards, line of credits, and home equity line of credit of $50,000 or less. If it's a home equity above that balance, it's going to go into the mortgage category. The reason I love this section is because this section allows you as the consumer to be in control. Now, I know I'm not the only one who likes to be in control. So this is why I like this. This is on revolving credit only. So when we talk about these credit cards, amount owed is based on your credit limit. So if you have a credit card that has $1,000 credit limit and you're maxed out every single month on this, your credit score can drop. So let's go back and do the math. 30% of the 550 points possible for a FICO score is 165 points. That is so many points, and 165 points based on how well you control the balance of your credit cards. So I'm going to go to the next slide here. If you can see, this is an example of a credit card statement. We've got the payment due date on February 14th, and then we've got a statement date of January 15th. If our payment due date is the 15th, that's the one we all know about, our due date. We want to pay a full balance or at least the minimum balance before the due date, so we don't have any late payments showing up on our credit. And if you pay it in full, you don't have any interest or any fees or late fees at all on the credit card. So that's the date we all seem to be really aware of. It's the date to the left, the statement date. We can call it the end date or the cycle date. Those three are interchangeable. This statement date, now this credit card example is not the greatest, but the statement date usually would be something like February 10th. It's only a couple days before the cycle date. And this is where we get in trouble, because on that statement date, if we're maxed out, that is what's dropping our score. Why? Okay, here's the secret. Our credit card companies report your current balance to all three credit bureaus on this date. So this statement date, end date, cycle date, all interchangeable. That's the date the current balance gets reported to all three credit bureaus. And so if you are maxed out on this statement date, your score will plummet, potentially 165 points. Oh my gosh, nobody tells us this. All right, now that you know this, okay, we've got this credit card. Credit limit is actually $1,500 on this one. Credit available, $500. New balance is $1,000. Okay, is that helping or hurting our credit? Where should we be at on that statement date? So most people know that if you're right in the middle, you're not helping, but you're not hurting this credit. So we need to be better than in the middle. So if we have a credit balance of 1,000 points, we're actually dropping our score drastically on this. So where should we be? Most popular answer, 30% or less. That's what I hear in the mortgage industry. However, if you're at 30%, which is a $500 balance on the statement date, you're actually only going to have a 700 score-ish. Is that good? That's below average right now. I don't know about you, but do you want to be below average? If you control this and your statement date, on your statement date, you actually have a balance much lower than that, you're going to increase your points. Now, I don't know who I'm talking to right now, if it's a public or realtors, but in the industry, like, it's hard to get people to get to that 30%. So depending on who you are and how you manage your account, if 30% is difficult, then you're probably going to be stuck somewhere in the 700 credit score range. This is why, though. If you are stuck in the 600 to 700, it's probably because your credit balance on your statement date is higher than 50% or less. Okay. If you want that 780 or higher FICO score, you need to have that balance at 10% or less of your credit limit. So if your credit limit is this $1,500 showing here, then you need to have it at $150 balance or less on the statement date. You can have it maxed out on every other date, but that statement date is when you want to have the balance at 10% or less. Are you exhausted yet? I know. Me too. Okay, we're back to the pie chart because we got through the second section. 30% of your credit profile is based on your credit balance. Remember, on the statement date. But don't forget about the due date. That's 35% payment history. You cannot be late. So here's one of the things that's kind of cool about credit cards. You cannot change that statement date. That's set with the credit card company that you're dealing with. So every credit card company is different. That's another kind of a challenge. So what you do have control of is the due date. So if the due date is just after the statement date, maybe you change the due date before the statement date. So then you pay it off in full, zero balance, and then maybe have a day or two to have and create a small balance. I'm not giving you permission to go onto Amazon and create more debt. No. But if you're strategic about this, you can actually pay one time and then have a small balance on your statement date without having to pay any interest, late fees, or have any late on your credit. Very, very important. Two combinations there. So we talk about credit cards. The next, let me see. I'm going to back up. I'm going to go to the next section. I'll save that piece for last. The next section is length of credit history. 15% of your overall credit profile. Remember, 550 points is based on length of credit. Here's our challenge. Length of credit. What is the average length of credit? Do you have an idea? The most common guess is like 10 years. That's not actually true. And why? Because if you think about it, credit cards are our best opportunity to have a really long history on an account. The challenge is we have these auto loans, we have student loans, and we have mortgages that, I help facilitate. But once you refinance, let's say we refinance a mortgage because last year you did a mortgage and you're at 7.5%, and now you can get 6.5% or lower. So you're going to refinance. You are now closing the current loan. So you have shortened that length of credit, and you're opening up a new loan and adding a new debt and new credit on your credit profile. What? So you've killed this one, you have two scores or two activities that impact your score and drop it. Remember, that's just temporary, but that's the truth. Okay, so 15% of your overall credit score is 82.5 points of that 550 points. So you want to have credit cards that do have the possibility of having a longer lifetime, more, or to offset, I should say, some of the other credit that you don't have control. So remember, I told you these credit cards, you have control. So if you have a credit card that you're like, hey, I'm not really using a lot, maybe you could keep it open and use it once every couple months just to have that length of credit. That's really healthy for your credit profile. And especially if you have other loans like auto loans. And once you get into an auto loan, it might be a 5-year term. Once you pay it off, it closes. That's going to drop your score temporarily. What? You just paid off a loan and now it's going to drop your score? Yes, temporarily because of the length of credit. So you want to offset those accounts that you don't have control of with the ones that you do. So hopefully that makes sense. Next section, type of credit used. There are all kinds of credit that we can use. Mention me, I'm probably the most important. Mortgages, right? No, just kidding. Anyway, so if you have a mortgage, that's going to help your credit profile pretty good, especially and only, of course, if you are on time. So you must be on time. But a mortgage is a high credit rating because it's also a very big debt and a huge responsibility. Okay. Then we've got auto loans out there. We've got student loans. We've got personal loans. We have lines of credit. We have furniture loans. We've got, all of these different type of loans in addition to these credit cards, which are my favorite because again, we have control and we can offset these type of credit. So if I pull credit and only credit showing up on your credit profile are a few credit cards and they're like gas credit cards or department store credit cards, they're not going to score as high as a major credit card like a American Express, a Discover, a Visa, a MasterCard. Those are our major credit cards. And of course, if you get offered a higher credit limit, you definitely want to take it. You don't want to take it to spend more money. You want to take it here to help your credit score. So hopefully that makes sense. And then the last section, of course, is new credit. When you open new credit, it's going to drop your score temporarily. I believe what I see is it drops about 3 months. And once you make on-time payments for 3 months, now it's going to add and improve your overall credit score. So anyways, I hope this helps. One of the other last questions we had is if you do have different trade lines, each debt on your credit is what we consider a trade line. How many trade lines should you have overall? Any questions or any answers on that? Okay, So a trade line could be a mortgage, an auto loan, a student loan, and then a credit card. You might have 4. I like to have a trade line for every account I can't control, offsetting it with a credit card. So as an example, if you have a mortgage, a car loan, and a student loan, then maybe you should have 1, 2, 3 different credit cards to offset that, because you don't know or you don't have control of this. When an auto loan closes, it closes, and now you still have 3 credit cards. You do have control, and it's not going to drop your score as much when you have these accounts continuing to work for you. So hopefully that helps. But in general, we want 5 to 8 different trade lines on your credit profile. And again, I like to balance it out with the credit cards versus the other credit that we don't have control. So I hope that helps. Have a wonderful day. Thank you so much for listening.